Oh, hey, we got some people in already. So let's get this music off of here. All right. Welcome back to WMAC Now with your host, Chuck Stevens, and welcome to the weekend recap for, what was it, May? We'll go back to Thursday, May 11th to the 14th of 2023. Got some good fights to talk about and some really, not good fights to talk about. We got to talk about them all. Also, we're going to talk about some refereeing. And I want to take a minute to spotlight a team that is slowly building up their ladies and pretty soon could be one of the premier teams for women fighters. And that's Great Britain top team. So we're going to talk about them as well. Marcus Mustard, I'm a couple minutes late, but the show was scheduled for 10:45. So let's get down into the fights. Oh, then we got like a couple miscellaneous things I want to talk about too. All right, so first up, we're going to France for Aries 15. Aries 15 had one ladies bout in the strawweight division. Asia Miri defeated, Joanna Chevruil via unanimous decision. Miri climbed to 2-1. Chevruil fell to 0-1. Good effort here from Asia Miri. Listen, her striking is top notch, especially for beginning her career because she comes from, a Muay Thai background and kickboxing and competed a lot in those sports. But we'll see how she does. Her last bout, she got finished. And I want to say the first round got taken down and TKO'd effortlessly. So her ground game has a long way to go, and it really didn't get tested in this bout. So we'll see how they match her up from here on out. Because, we saw what her ground game consisted of in her second bout. They also put her in with like a 4-fight veteran or a 5-fight veteran. A little bit early to be facing the fighter that she ended up facing. What was the girl's name? Fabiola Padroni. A little too fast for Miri. But we'll see how Aries develops her from here on out. Because I like Aries FC. And seems like they could be developing, some decent ladies out of there over in France. Then we move to Paris, France for Bellator 296. Had one ladies bout. Denise Kielholtz defeated Paula Christina at flyweight. Kielholtz climbed to 7-5. Christina fell to 6-2. So this halted a 3-fight losing streak for Kielholtz. Well, she did have a kickboxing bout where she picked up a win, but MMA-wise, she had lost 3 straight to Juliana Velasquez, Kana Watanabe, and then Lara Joani. And that was probably the worst loss, even though it was only a split decision. But she comes in, takes on the Bellator newcomer in Bittencourt. Paula Christina had only lost once before this. And that was a couple fights ago. And this is a good win for Kielholtz. Like, nothing spectacular happened in the fight, but it was a solid win. And it was a good way for her to get back into the win column. So good on Denise Kielholtz. For Paula Christina, Kielholtz is a bit small for a flyweight, but she's very experienced, and Kielholtz was just a bit too much of a step up for her in her Bellator debut. But we'll see what she offers, in the future. So we go to Saturday in the UFC on ABC4, Rosenstrike versus Almeida, aka UFC Charlotte, in the first bout at bantamweight. Tainara Lisboa defeated Jessica Rose Clark via submission due to rear naked choke. 4 minutes, 20 seconds of the third round. Lisboa climbed to 6-2. Jessica Rose Clark fell to 11-9. This this could easily be the last time we see Jessica Rose Clark in the UFC. It's hard to say because at bantamweight they need the fighters, and this was a bantamweight. Oh, this is a Topology says this was at flyweight. I thought this was at bantamweight. Because Clark's last two fights were at bantamweight. Let me see here. I'm surprised this was at flyweight. Guess it was at flyweight, at least according to Topology. Anyway, probably the last time we see Jessica Rose Clark, because this was the third straight submission loss for her. She's lost four of her last six, 5 of her last 7. I mean, her only 2 wins recently came against Sarah Alpar all the way back in September of 2020. And then a year later, defeated Jocelyn Edwards via decision. That's not a bad win there. But the Alpar win, that doesn't mean anything because Alpar's already gone from the UFC. And it was 3 years ago. Whereas the Edwards fight was what? 2.5, almost 3 years ago. Or almost 2 years ago. But yeah, since February of last year, Clark has dropped an armbar loss to Stephanie Egger, an armbar loss to Yulia Stolyarenko in July, and then almost a year later, 10 months later, she loses to Tainara Lisboa in the 3rd round. So at least she made it to the 3rd round. Her 2 previous fights, she got submitted in the 1st round. Plus, when you're the only recent win for Yulia Stolyarenko, that doesn't look good for you either. So I would not be surprised if Jessica Rose Clark gets cut, or they might keep her around for one more. We'll see. For Lisboa, darn good striker, and then pulled off that submission, which was nice to see. That's her 3rd win by submission. She also has 3 wins by knockout or technical knockout, and no wins by decision. So she is an absolute finisher. Made her UFC debut. Going to look forward to seeing what she does here. Marcus and Judy say it was bantamweight. So this was at bantamweight. That might help Jessica Rose Clark then, because the UFC, Lord knows, the UFC needs bantamweights. And then I've been too frustrated to make a full review on this one. I know I should. But this fight was absolutely frustrating to watch. Anyway, at flyweight, Mandy Bohm defeats Jeon Kim via split technical decision. Bohm climbs to 8-2, or Boom, however you say it. And Kim falls to 9-7-2. You know, I said this on Twitter. I think I said it in a community post on a YouTube community post. Cut both of them after this. Just cut both of them. Kim, because of her losing streak. Boom, because she barely pulled out a split decision win after they had to take 2 after 2 points were taken from Kim. Let me pull up MMA decisions right here real quick. I want to see the scores on this. As soon as they load. Okay. Two judges had it 28-27 for Kim or Boom. One judge had it 28-27 for Kim. And that's after 2 points were deducted from Kim. So, yeah, Boom really didn't win this fight. She just got that knee, got kneed, took the easy way out. And she could say, oh, my eye was hurting, my eye was hurting. My opinion, she took the easy way out. Because it was the third freaking round. What time did they stop? What time was the fight stopped at? It doesn't say. Like all but one of the media scores on MMA Decisions has it for Kim. MMA Mania has it for Boom. Well, it tells you about MMA Mania. Just poor decision making, poor fight IQ from both fighters. Kim went in there mad as heck, fighting off of her emotions, not thinking. Almost had Boom finished right away, like with one of her first punches she threw. Almost had Boom hurt and could have finished her, and then just threw fight IQ out the window. Boom is just not a UFC caliber fighter. Kim is barely UFC caliber. Mandy Boom is not. So I'm very comfortable in saying cut both of them. Kim is on a losing streak. Boom should be 0-3 in the UFC. I don't feel bad saying that about either of them anymore. And I'm a fan of Jiyeon Kim. But yeah, 1, 2, 3. That's 5 straight losses. Lot of tension coming into this fight. There's different sources you can look up as to why they treated why they went in hot like this. Kim was mad because this fight was pushed back twice. It was supposed to happen in February. Mandy Boom dropped out of it then. They wanted to reschedule it for March. Boom said no. Apparently, she went on vacation. So Kim has basically been in training camp for months at a time now. And missed her grandmother's funeral, I guess, because of it. So she came in hot. Boom is just I don't have a high opinion of her. She seemed promising at first because of her wrestling, and then she gets to the UFC, and it's like, oh no, you just got lucky in Bellator. So yeah, I don't have a high opinion of either of them. Both of them fought dirty. Both of them did, because you can see that one instance where like Kim kind of like kicks Boom away, but then like I forget if it was at the end of the first or the second round where like Kim's getting up from on top of Boom and Boom tries to like grab her arm and kick her leg out from under her, but the referee didn't call that one. He called Kim for kicking Boom off of her and took a point there between the first and the second round. And then, of course, Kim throws an illegal knee, which was just brain dead for her. Boom took the easy route out. Referee stopped the fight, then decided to, we'll get to that in a moment. I guess Jiyeon Kim had a messed up, like a torn ACL, and was fighting through it just because she needed the fight insurance, which I can understand. I did notice that she was wearing knee pads when she normally doesn't. Just all around horrible fight. I mean, it'll be forgotten in like a week, probably by the end of this week. I don't think we see either of them again. I think Boom probably saved her contract by getting this win, but that's not the way you want to do it, ladies and gentlemen. That is not the way you want to win when your freaking roster spot's on the line, because the UFC doesn't like when people do stuff like that. But yeah, and then Kim was just totally now listen. I think that John Wood and Syndicate MMA is probably the worst gym for anybody to be training out of right now, But he was actually giving her good advice in the corner, and she ignored it. For once, he was actually giving good advice, and Kim chose to ignore it and stayed engaged. And then that's what eventually led to the low blow, or not the low blow, the knee, because Kim should have disengaged and struck with her at range because she was beating Boom when they were striking at range. Because Boom can't strike to save her life. Just an all around frustrating fight to watch. Just terrible. The fact that it was on at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon, my time, and interrupted my mid Saturday nap when I have an extended like 2.5 hour lunch on Saturdays just really made me mad because I missed my nap for this fight and it was terrible. Before we go on, we got a bunch of stuff in the chats. Marcus Mustard, I checked out a Samurai Fight House fight on YouTube too. Bravo head kick Chick's first pro fight, I think. Well, I'll have to check that out. So Keelholtz was slugging in that one. Christina was barely in anything. Judy V's in the chat. Marcus, Jessie Jess was trying to do her thing, but Ty Panther was swinging. Those were heavy shots Jessica Rose Clark was eating. Yeah. They said it was at Bantam. Those points taken were something, says Judy. Easy E. Kim made a decision to end her career that night with illegal strikes. I don't think she ended her career. Probably a UFC career. She was even tried to dig in Boom's eye. I didn't see that. Marcus, Boom should have kept banging, but it might have landed kind of heavy. Couldn't tell with camera angle. I saw that too. Boom grabbed Kim's ankle on a ref break. Yeah, but the referee had nothing to say about that one. The fight could have been even going into the third without the illegal blows. Kim just gave the fight away to land dirty shots. Yeah. Fire fist was fire clinch. Yeah. She was clinching too much in this fight, which was obliging Boom because that's what Boom wanted. All right. Then Saturday night, we had Combate Global. First ladies bout was in the atomweight division. Katie Perez in the blue there defeated Stephanie Iruzzo via, I believe it was third round TKO. Topology hasn't updated yet. Perez evened her record at 4-4. Iruzzo fell to 0-5-1. Whew. That's when you really ought to think, like, do I really want to be doing this? Do I really want to be doing this? I mean, I've seen fighters that have had, upside down records that bad early in their career, and then they turn it around, but you not necessarily even turn it around, but they do start picking up some wins. I mean, Celine Haga had a really bad start to her career. Who's the girl from Korea? There's a Korean girl. It started off with like multiple straight losses. She started picking up some wins, although she got knocked out pretty bad last year. Can't think of her name. Neither of them have actually righted their records, though. And, you got to decide, is this something I really want to be doing? Then it starts getting even harder because you're not going to have an easy time finding fights. In fact, if you do get fights, you're just being brought in to pad someone else's record. Do you really want to be getting paid nickels and dimes in order to pad someone else's record? I mean, if it's an easy paycheck and you're not getting hurt too much, which let me check out Stephanie's record here. I mean, is she losing badly in these fights? Let's see. She drew her first fight, majority decision her second fight. Third fight says decision, medical detention. I don't know what that is. Let's see. Decision, and then she got TKO'd. So it's not like she's getting absolutely wrecked, I guess. Like she's not taking like serious knockouts. But still, do you really want to keep losing like that? It's you either got to switch up gyms, make a big commitment to improvement, or do something. And then this fight, I made a review video for it. Also at atom weight, Chihiro Sawada defeated the number one ranked Combate atom weight, Ana Palacios, via unanimous decision. Sawada improved to 5-0-1. Palacios fell to 7-2-1. This is a good fight. And so Chihiro Sawada is going to be a threat. Now, needs to work on her striking. She was getting tagged by some simple counter punches, ate some uppercuts too. Like the first punch that Palacios landed was like an outside uppercut and landed right on Sawada's eye. Sawada had kind of had her head down, ate an uppercut, had a nice bruise afterwards. She got some stitches, I think, right here underneath her left eye. But as soon as the fight got taken to the ground, other than like two threatened submissions in the first, both of them in the first round, Sawada was totally in control on the ground, which is an achievement because Palacios is dangerous on the ground. She's not just dangerous on the ground, she's dangerous, most importantly, off of her back, which is where she spent almost all of that time. She was on her back, which is where, I mean, you might have her hurt, you might knock her down, or you might take her down, but Palacios is known to attack from her back. I mean, broke the arm of Bo Hyun Park last year after getting hurt, getting knocked down from a punch, absorbing some ground and pound, still managed to come back and get an armbar. But here against Palacios, her positioning, too good, too heavy, and the ground and pound, too heavy as well. And then even as the fight wore on, even in the stand-up, Palacios started to slow down and flag. So good on Chihiro Sawada. Came all the way from Japan, trained at Team Oyama in California with Carla Esparza. And then they brought her usual coach over as well to coach her, and picks up a win in the U.S. Her second straight fight abroad. And she's still the Shudo atomweight champion as well. That's it for the recap. Let's see. What do we have in the chat? Judy V says time to hang them gloves for her. Marcus says, oof, 0-5-1. She gets an A for effort, credit for sticking to it. Easy E says, you really have to be excited if you want to make a living fighting with an upside down record. Yeah, it just depends. It really depends on the promotions. Because, I mean, sometimes they just like cans. I mean, look up Shannon Rich's record. Man, that's bad. Even if she is brought in to lose and she doesn't, most promotions won't give her another fight anyway. I've seen that happen so many times to fighters I know personally. Yeah, that is true. If you are brought in to lose and you end up winning, they're not going to bring you back necessarily. Shoot, we've seen it with Combate. A couple of times, like fighters were brought in, they beat their top fighter or one of their top fighters, and then weren't brought back. Let me see here. Who beat Gloria Bravo? Last year, Gloria Bravo, who was ranked, I think, number 2 or 3 at atomweight at the time, still is, lost to Katie Saul via unanimous decision. That was in July. Combate never brought Katie Saul back. In fact, Katie Saul, I think her next fight was her next fight was in January in Invicta. That was her only fight to date in Combate. And Katie Saul had an almost even record at the time, so they probably figured, oh, Bravo will get a win, and then that'll be it. And then who else? Daniela Hernandez, Tiny Mexa. Yeah, Daniela Hernandez just a few weeks ago. Kayla Rocco, dropped a decision to Kayla Rocco, although Rocco had fought for Combate a bunch of times, I think so. Or at least a few times. Let me see. Excuse me. Yeah, that was her third fight for Combate, so she'll probably be brought back in. There's another one. I'm going to say it was Carolyn Gallardo, their top strawweight. Yeah. Okay, here's one. Carolyn Gallardo lost in July of 2021 to Isis Verbeek. Where has Isis fought since then? Once for Invicta, and then now she has a couple of bare knuckle bouts. Now she has a fight on the Contender Series, so we're not even going to worry about that. But yeah, Combate is notorious for that. They want fighters. They want their top fighters to look good. And if you make them look bad, they might not call you back. Marcus says credit to Combate Global for a real canvas, better than the plastic tarp ones. I've heard that Gucci looking canvas though is like slippery. Marcus says deep jewels for Fire Fist. Kim, she is still their, she is or was their bantamweight champion. She could go back and fight as a flyweight there. Not much money, that's for darn sure. But yeah, who else is going to want her? She'll probably need a couple wins. Maybe Bellator will pick her up. Who knows? All right, so now that the recap is over, let's talk some bad refereeing. So who was this referee here? Let me see. Larry Carter in Charlotte, North Carolina. This dude was a terrible referee. Terrible referee. And he wasn't like the only bad referee that night in Charlotte. But Larry Carter here, let's see. He would call some fouls while missing others. Like I said, that like ankle grab or whatever from Boom, he didn't call that. He called the like the push off kick from Kim, which that's mostly what it was the kickoff. Didn't really give any warnings, just straight up took points, which, granted, that's at referees' discretion. But it's like when the trend is to give like a million different warnings before you take points, do you really just want to go in there and start taking points away? And then not take away points from the other fighter when they do stuff as well? Here's my biggest gripe, though. This is my absolute biggest gripe. Kim hit the knee on Boom. They brought in a doctor. Boom won it out. So he called the fight. So the judges were already tallying up their scores. Then he brings Kim back into the center of the octagon, then decides to take a point from her, which then causes the judges to have to take back their scorecards. Okay, listen, you don't call the fight before you take the foul. That's not how you do it. Okay. While Boom was getting checked on by the doctor, that's when you bring Kim in and take the point. And that's if you decide it was intentional, which, let's be honest, it was intentional. I like Gion Kim, but that was intentional. You don't call the fight and then decide you're going to take the point. Now, there were some, I gotta watch my words here, some absolute morons from the paid MMA media saying, oh, that referee did his job right. He was doing his job right. He did it properly. No, he did not. No, he did not. How these people manage to get paid for the work they do is beyond me. I'm a hobbyist and I know better than to call a fight and then take a point from it. You take the point before you call the fight. You take the point while she's getting checked on by the doctor. Then you go back. You talk. You consult with the doctor, because ultimately it's up to the referee to call the fight. But you take the point away before you call the fight. Also, this guy was doing stand-ups at like the worst time and not giving the fighters any chance to work. It's like as soon as the boo bird started, it's up, separate or stand up, start over on the feet. This guy was a terrible referee. And I think like the fight right after this, there was like some referee shenanigans too. Now, some people say, well, you can't just have referees who have never called UFC fights before and then bring them into the UFC. I don't necessarily agree with that, because otherwise you're basically the UFC is then forcing the commissioners to bring in certain referees from out of state all the time. And then the home state referees aren't getting that experience needed. It's like, you can't really, it's almost like then they're showing favoritism to certain referees. And at the same time, if referees aren't being brought in to get experience, how are they supposed to get big show experience? Because a lot of these guys, some of these referees and these judges don't go out of state. They don't travel to do it. They stay in their own state and do it. So then they're only working small shows. So a lot of people say, well, they shouldn't be brought in if they don't have big show experience. But then how do you get big show experience unless you're brought in to do it? However, you're also supposed to be working the regional circuit and getting that experience as well, getting that repetition in so that you can learn when to make the right call, so that you can learn how to properly score a fight. That's how you get that. You got to get that experience in the small leagues as well, so that you can build up for when you get that call to the big show. Because guess what? You're going to make more money refereeing for a show like the UFC than you would, say, Titan FC or whatever, or whoever goes to North Carolina. I don't even know. And the same goes for the judges. Same goes for basically the commissions overall. A lot of these commissions are just, they're garbage. I mean, honestly, there's less than a handful of athletic commissions in the U.S. that are actually any good. Obviously, North Carolina, I would say, is not one of them. I would say Nevada is not one of them either, because Nevada is one of the most corrupt. California does a pretty good job. New Jersey, for the most part, does a good job. Although, because like they were the first state to legalize MMA, they kind of like take that role as like the leader, and then they're like one of the worst ones to try to get any changes done in. But yeah, I like California. I like New Jersey. Colorado might not be the best, but you know what? They're open to trying new and different things, like the open scoring that you'll see in Invicta, or they let one championship apply their scoring criteria and their rules, which include knees to a downed opponent, which I am a huge proponent of allowing. For example, if knees to a grounded opponent were allowed and Boom couldn't continue, she'd have lost. And the fact that you can get away with actually standing on your feet and putting one hand down, and that's somehow considered a grounded opponent, that's the dumbest rule anyway. They need to fix that too. You should have to be on all fours, or 3 out of 4. You should have to be on at least a knee to be considered grounded. Not, oh, I'm on my feet, but I'm bent over and I have my hand down. So that's a grounded opponent. And then the worst part is not every state has the exact same rules. So the unified rules aren't that unified. So yes, bad referees can ruin careers. And they need to be held accountable. But again, because of the way these athletic commissions are, they're never held accountable. Because a lot of these referees, at least the local ones that don't really get around too much, like, okay, let's exclude, like, say, the Herb Deans of the world or the Mark Goddards or whoever. Like the guys like this guy, Larry Carter. He probably knows somebody in the commission, or he has a relative who works for the state. And that's probably how he got his job. I'm not saying this is absolute truth. I don't know. But a lot of these referees and judges are very buddy with either the commissioners or somebody that the commissioners work with or for. And that's how a lot of people manage to work bigger shows. For example, and I have nothing against him personally, but in Missouri, Mike England, who used to referee every other fight in Invicta, he was at every Invicta event in Missouri. Mike England, the one that would say "God bless you, ladies" before the fight. He was buddy with someone on the athletic commission, or a brother-in-law, or something like that. So every big, mid-size, or bigger show that went to Missouri, he managed to get called. He got the call. These commissions and the people that work on them, they're bureaucrats and they're corrupt. So unfortunately, it's hard to do anything. And even the UFC doesn't like to rock the boat too much. If anything, the only time they would rock the boat is to say make it harder for their competition. For example, Mark Ratner, I think it's Mark Ratner, who now works for the UFC, used to work for the Nevada Athletic Commission. When one championship got cleared to bring their rules to Colorado, Mark Ratner, or whoever it was, I think Mark Ratner might be for California. Whoever it is that used to work for the commission, state commission, and now works for the UFC directly said, well, the UFC isn't going to be going to any states that allow, such and such rules. We've come a long way. We don't, those rules are barbaric and stuff now. We've come a long way from that. And we're not going to be going to any state whose commission allows that type of barbaric rules, which is basically the UFC trying to strong arm the Colorado Combative Sports Commission, is what they're called. Like, that's the only time the UFC would ever step in to do anything. Other than that, they don't care because they're not worried about the individual fighters. Now, if something affected the UFC themselves negatively, then they would try to say something. But for the most part, the UFC doesn't care either. Judy V says 4 women fights on Dern versus Hill. Looking forward to Emily versus Lupita. Yeah, that's a good one. Marcus says, yeah, that delay was long. Easy E says, I mean, how can you take from a point from a fight that's over? That's new. Yeah. And the judges shouldn't have even paid any mind to it. Also, the fight was over. Dunce caps all around. Yeah, the fight's over. You don't take a point. You don't then go back and recalculate. You already declared the fight over. Easy E says, Frank Trigg is actually a really good ref these days. I think more former fighters should do it. Mike Beltran is pretty good too. 2 of the best that don't get enough shine. Well, Frank Trigg doesn't get along with the UFC. Here's the thing, though. Because there's like 2 main referees that have like classes, like annual classes to learn how to be a referee. One of them's Herb Dean, and you rarely ever hear about his classes, though. But the other is Big John McCarthy. Big John will be the first to tell you former fighters are the hardest ones to teach. They are the hardest ones for them to learn because so many fighters just simply don't know the rules but think they do, and they're stubborn about it. And he actually tells a story about, like, he failed Frank Trigg, I think, like 3 times before he did it, before he passed him. And one of the big things was like when to stop a fight. And Frank was saying, well, you got blah, blah, blah. Big John basically sat Frank down, pulled up a fight. It was Frank versus Robbie Lawler in Icon. Robbie messed Frank up so bad. I'm pretty sure that ended up being Frank's last fight. Let me check on that real quick. But I mean, Robbie absolutely messed Frank up in that fight and said, now, do you think that fight should have been allowed to go on? And Frank was like, oh, I guess not. Okay, so that wasn't his last fight. He fought through to like 2011. He even got brought back to the UFC for a couple fights. Okay, didn't know that. Forgot all about that. Yeah, fighters don't necessarily make good referees or judges, is the thing. Judy V agrees that former fighters should become refs. Now, Chris Lieben's a pretty good ref. There are some fighters out there that have become good refs, but it took years of experience too. Vitor Ribeiro or Vitor Shaolin, he refed one championship on Friday night, and then I think he traveled through the night and refereed the UFC the next day. So yeah, there are some good former fighters out there who are refs, but they're in the minority. Easy E says knees and soccer kicks need to come back. Knees, yes, I'm not in on soccer kicks. I'm tired of all the grounded fighter gaming as well. Yeah, Mandy Bohm did it. Aljo Sterling is notorious for it. It's a lot of it's just a stall, and I hate it. At least it will force fighters to either get up or scramble to keep from getting their head sent to the moon. Yeah, I'm all for knees on the ground to the head. I mean, Lord knows, you allow everything else, might as well allow those. All right, next topic. You might recognize this guy. He's a former fighter. Now he has his own gym. One Punch Brad Pickett. So Brad started Great Britain Top Team. And I wanted to talk about Great Britain Top Team. This is I took this picture myself at Invicta 53. He was there coaching Olga Rubin. And I got to tell him, I said, after Olga's fight, because I saw him before. This picture was taken before Olga's fight. He was just watching one of the fights, the early fights. And I congratulated him on Claire Lopez's win the previous weekend against Reina. And then Rubin went out and won that night. And, I said to him, I said, hey, nice job, because GBTT, Great Britain Top Team, has slowly amassed a good women's team. And it's not all women there, but Great Britain Top Team has slowly amassed a really good crop, of women fighters. And I wanted to do a little segment here to talk about them. So let's talk about Great Britain Top Team. So they are based in England, in London, founded in 2019, which I think was right around when Brad retired. When did he retire? Yep. He retired in 2017. Wow. So a couple years after he retired. And Brad was training out of, if I remember right, American Top Team when he retired. So the symbol there is, the typical Top Team symbol, which I believe Brazil was the first team to use that name, was Brazilian Top Team. And then American Top Team was an offshoot with Ricardo Laborio. It's usually the flag with the guy. Of course, with Great Britain, it's Brad with his little hat. So I wanted to talk about the ladies of Great Britain top team because there's 4 in particular I want to spotlight that have really done well lately. The first one is going to be Claire Lopez. So a couple weeks ago, Claire Lopez, over on the left here in the Combate Global top, Rep Combate went to Japan for Ryzen Landmark 5. Went out there, took on, longtime Japanese mainstay, Reina Kubota. Honestly, it was close to losing that fight and then pulls out the dog bar, knee bar, 4 minutes, 21 seconds of the third round. Bit of an upset. Little bit of an upset. Absolutely amazing submission. I couldn't find a good picture of it, but she got that on and Reina tapped fast. And very unusual. Honestly, it's a submission of the year candidate already. And Lopez is no joke. She only has 1 loss since 2020. Has won 4 of her last 5. Her only loss came via TKO to Yasmin Hawagi in the finals of a one-night Combate Global strawweight tournament. She made it to the finals, lost to Yasmin. Of course, that's no real loss there. Before that, had beaten Karen Cedillo and Paulina Vargas. Before that, TKO'd Paulina Vargas in the first round. After the Hawagi loss, took a year off, came back, defeated Camila Rivarola in the first round, 44 seconds. And then just a couple weeks ago, came in, took on Reina, staggered Reina bad in the first round, and was really taking it to her in the striking department. Now, Claire's a good striker. I didn't think she was on Reina's level of striking. And Reina had to dig deep to survive early, started going to the body. And another thing I got to give credit to Claire for, she dug deep. She's normally a first-round fighter and then doesn't do well after the first round. And survived all that body work from Reina, one of the best body attackers in MMA. Dug deep and got that win. She's ranked number 2 right now as an atomweight in Combate, even though she's never fought at atomweight for them. I've heard rumors she already has another fight booked in Ryzen. So we'll see. She said the only fight she wants in Combate is Ana Palacios because she wants to be the number 1 atomweight, and Palacios, she claims Palacios keeps ducking her. Of course, Palacios just lost to Sawada, so we'll see what happens there. But right now, it's looking like she might have another fight in Ryzen. So then, like a week later? Yeah, like that very week. Go to Invicta 53 in Denver. Olga Rubin faces Claire Guthrie, puts on a very good fight, and then gets taken down in the third round? Boom. Pulls out a buggy choke. One of the rarest submissions in MMA because of just how hard it is to actually get it, because it's just a weird submission. Pulls off a buggy choke on Claire Guthrie. So 2 submission of the year candidates from 2 Great Britain top team fighters in less than a week? So we had 29, 1. Yeah. In like less than 5 days, you had 2 submission of the year candidates from 2 fighters on the same team. Different weight classes too. Lopez fought at a catch weight against Reina, Rubin at bantamweight. And Rubin's done really well since going to to GBTT. She was a featherweight in Bellator, got cut from Bellator or released, picked up a win against Priscilla de Souza in Octagon, dropped her Invicta debut in a title bout bid against Tanisha Tennant, lost a split decision. No shame there. Then comes back, picks up a nice decision win against Serena de Jesus, where she really took it to Serena in a slobber knocker of a fight. Really fun fight. And then that was back in January. And then here, 4 months later, picks up a buggy choke win against Claire Guthrie, who was riding, I believe, a 4-fight winning streak. Yeah, officially 4-fight winning streak for Claire Guthrie. Snaps that winning streak. Likely earned herself another shot at the Invicta title, which is now held by Talita Bernardo. That's going to be a good fight between those two, especially if it gets to the ground. So now you have a strawweight / atomweight in Lopez. Then you have a bantamweight in Guthrie. Or Rubin. Yeah, Olga Rubin. Big bad. And I'll tell you what, I don't know how she makes bantamweight. She's big. I don't mean like, I think Guthrie's a bit thicker, but Rubin is just all around like big and tall. And she's what, like 5'9"? Yeah, 5'9" with a 69-inch reach. I don't know how she makes bantamweight. It's got to be a hard cut. But she's done it successfully, 4 times now, so good for her. Next fighter I want to talk about is Chanel Dyer. Now, Chanel Dyer is, let me find her. She's only 2-0 as a pro, but she is an absolutely terrifying fighter. Both of her fights as a pro, she has won via knockout in the first round. First fight was at Hexagon 7 against Veronica Azer. Knocked her out with a spinning back fist with 4 seconds left in the first round. Second fight was in Full Contact Contenders. I'm guessing that was in England. Let me see. Yep, that was in Liverpool. Standing TKO in the first round. Chanel Dyer is terrifying. Then you go down and you look at her amateur record. And she's got a pretty good amateur record too. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and 3 as an amateur. And she's got a lot of finishes there too. She's got a third round. Her very first amateur bout was a first round TKO. Her third bout was a third round TKO. A couple of decisions, but another one, KO, TKO, KO, TKO. Won a decision in her last amateur bout, and then boom, she's 2-0 as a pro already. This young lady, she's only 22 years old. So she's younger, definitely younger than Rubin and Lopez. 22 years old, 2 knockouts. That's scary. I cannot wait to see what she brings in the future. Then the final fighter I wanted to talk about from Great Britain top team is the Butcher's daughter, Manuela Marcaneto, Italian lady, girl. I don't have her age available. Now, her record is not the best. She's 4-3 currently right now. Coming off a loss at Aries 14 last month to Ayuni Razafiarison, which, excuse me. Yeah, it doesn't have the prettiest of records at 4-3, but 2 of the losses are via split. She lost her first fight via majority decision, so which means 2 judges saw it for her opponent, 1 judge saw it a draw. So none of her bouts, her losses, have been by a wide margin. So she's keeping it close. Now, she's been a decision machine so far. But here's the most important one. In her 4th fight, a Centurion Fight Championship in, Malta, took on the now the now Invicta FC strawweight champion, Danny McCormick, and beat her via split decision. And took that fight on like a week's notice and beat McCormick. And McCormick was just coming out of Bellator at the time. So she currently holds a win over the Invicta strawweight champion. So doesn't have the prettiest of record, but she's doing good so far. And she's tough. Like, this lady's tough. So that is the final lady I wanted to talk about from Great Britain top team. Just to do a little bit of a spotlight on that team, because like I got to tell Brad, he is quietly building up a strong team of ladies. Let's go to the chat. Marcus says, I see Pickett in a sailor hat. Yep. Marcus says, the Invicta Reina beat DeCourcy, or Hayani beat DeCourcy. Good main event. Shout out to Denver. Yeah, I like Denver, man. I can't wait to go back. Little dry, though. Marcus, I didn't check out Ryzen much, but the intro was cool. Yeah, Ryzen knows how to put on a show. Like, people talk about one championship putting on a show. Ryzen puts on a show. Like, that's the spiritual successor of Pride. And also says one was interesting. Colorado definitely was. And oh yeah, couldn't breathe in the buggy choke. There were a couple of fight announcements over the past few days. So Ryzen 43 goes down next month in June. They're going to Sapporo, which is the northernmost major city in Japan. It's on the island of Hokkaido. Why they're going? Well, I guess if you're going to go to Sapporo, go in the summer. Otherwise, it's like freezing cold. But they've announced 2 ladies bouts. Now, this one is going to be at strawweight. We have Saori Oshima taking on Salt. Now, Salt, what is her name? I want to say her name is Haruka something. I'll find it in a second. Haruka Hasegawa, I want to say. Yeah, Haruka Hasegawa. Her record's only 3-2. However, she is coming off of 2 wins over Karen and Pancrase. The first fight was a non-title fight, beat her via decision. Second fight, beat her for the title. So she is now the current Pancrase champion. Oshima is the current Deep Jewels Atomweight champion and has some very good wins in Ryzen against some super atomweights as well. For some reason, Oshima agreed to go to strawweight, take on this fight, and she even made like a post saying, hey, this was my decision. I agreed to it. I think this is going to be a hard one. Not only is Oshima giving up a lot of size against Hasegawa, Hasegawa is good at fighting on the outside, which is how she mostly beat Karen, because she was better on the outside. Oshima's going to have to really work to get on the inside here to start working her aggressive grappling style. This is going to be a tough one for Oshima. I would not have booked this bout for her. If I was her manager, I'd have been like, heck no. But it is interesting because we have the current Pancrase champ. I don't know why Ryzen never tried to get Karen when she was Pancrase's champion, but now they never did. Now they brought in Salt. It's a neat one because, you've got 2 champions in different promotions meeting in a neutral promotion. So that's an interesting one. I'm just not a big... I'm definitely going to watch the fight. Definitely going to watch it. Definitely going to review it. But not a big fan of this matchup. Then we have Marina Kumagai taking on Aoi Kuriyama. This is, I believe, at... I want to say bantamweight. Kumagai usually fights at bantam. Yep, bantamweight. This is an odd one. maybe one of them's from Sapporo. Yeah. Okay. So both of these ladies have upside down records. Kumagai's 3-4, Kuriyama's 4-5-1. So you're wondering, well, why are they bringing these two in? Well, I just looked it up, and it apparently Marina Kumagai is from Sapporo. So they got a local fighter, and they put her in against someone that she could potentially win against in Kuriyama. Has she fought Kuriyama before? No, she has not. And Kuriyama's mostly a striker. Kumagai comes from a kickboxing background. So here you got a bit of the local flavor here. Kind of like when Ryzen went to what's it called? What's the southern island? Not Osaka. Okinawa. And they brought in Nisei, who's from Okinawa. That's basically what this is. Anyway, I'll do a full. I'll do like a separate video breaking down these two bouts a little bit more. All right, coming up this weekend, and I got to record the video tomorrow for this. I meant to do one like weeks ago when this got announced, but we have Colors produced by Shudo, all women's event this Sunday, May 21st. Going to be kept off by a super atomweight title bout between Sarami Satomi Takano and Ayaka Watanabe. A little bit of a mismatch, if you ask me, looking at the records. But there are some other good bouts on here. They have a grappling bout. Yuki Sugiuchi taking on former Deep Jewels atomweight champ Tomo Maesawa, Tiny Tomo. Got a battle of the older ladies. Yasuko Tamada, who's like 55 now, taking on 43 or 44-year-old Hisei Watanabe. And I've talked about Watanabe many times in the past. At one time, she was the true knockout queen of the women's divisions. She's long past it. So is Tamada. This is like the only fight I would want to see either of these two in at this point. Although Tamada is coming off of a win. Yeah, both are long in the tooth, both age-wise and career-wise. So I kind of like this one. And then this might be the fight I'm most looking forward to on this card. We've got one championship veteran, Zenny Juan, taking on Ira Koga. Ira Koga has an interesting fight style. And then Zenny Juan's coming in off of a big win in Pancrase over can't think of the girl's name right now. What was her name? Sayako Fujita. They pretty much brought in Zenny to be like a feeder for Fujita. Didn't turn out that way at all. Zenny really took it to her. But this might be the fight I'm most looking forward to. Although I do like a good old chick battle. Let's see here. Easy E, I like Sapporo's beer. I've never actually had Sapporo beer. Marcus, I was watching B. Nguyen and Andy Nguyen's boxing on Gamebred 2, and the Crazian lost a bare knuckle after that. Yeah, Andy Nguyen just takes fights to collect a check at this point. Super atomweight, 95 pounds. No, atomweight is 105. Super atomweight, depending on the promotion. Ryzen sets it at 108 pounds. Shudo sets theirs at 110, I believe. And they're the only promotions that officially have like a super atomweight is Ryzen and Shudo, and they're technically at different weights. Although Deep Jewels has a lot of fights at 108 pounds to feed fighters to Ryzen. What else? All right, so that's it. So I'll try to release a video on, well, I got to talk about the Ryzen fights and I got to talk about the Shudo bouts. But that's really all I have for you today. So Let's see, we got some chats. Easy says, Marcus Mustard, I love B Newton's in-studio interview on MMA Hour. She took a lot of the cringe out of Ariel. Well, that's a challenge because that dude is cringy as fuck. Marcus says, I didn't see that. Good for her. Popped up on my feed but didn't click. I heard his interview with Yan Xiaonan was pretty good too. Although I don't watch the MMA Hour. It's funny that it's called the MMA Hour and the show's usually like 3 to 5 hours long. So yeah, that's really all I have. I went an hour. Wasn't sure if I would go that long or if it would go longer. An okay weekend of fights. To me, the real highlight of the weekend was Sawada versus Palacios for Combate. So if you have Univision or Paramount Plus, you can go check that out. Marcus says last week of UFC until a 1 week breather. Yeah, could use that. No Dern versus Hill. Well, I'll talk about it probably. I'll try to talk about it Thursday or Friday. Great benefactor, welcome to the chat. And do I do this every Monday? No. I would have preferred to do this yesterday, but man, Sundays I'm exhausted. So yeah, I would prefer to do a weekend recap on Sunday night. Going to try to get back in. I'm trying to get back into like a regular schedule. Okay. Judy V says, good night, everyone. Till next time. Yeah. Going to try to do the WMMA report this Thursday, get back into that. I'm going to try to get into like a regular streaming schedule of Thursday and Sunday. I don't like to go live too often. I know a lot of people like them. It's just, you got to do a lot of prep work for them. And Sundays. Yeah. I mean, don't look for them all the time. It's just, that's when I would prefer to do them. All right. So we'll get ready to close up. If you haven't yet, please take a moment, hit that thumbs up button. It draws people to the stream even after it has ended. And before I go, Invicta fighter Maria Jose Favela is apparently she caught lymphatic cancer. Her teammate Cynthia and friend Cynthia Calvillo has started a GoFundMe to raise money for her treatments. I think they have like $27,000 raised already in less than a week. Their goal is $75,000 for the treatment. I put a link in the description down below. Listen, if you can, give what you can if you can afford to give. If not, I understand. I'm going to go in and put something in there myself too. You know, she was actually supposed to fight on Invicta 53. Her fight quietly got removed, and I had wondered why. And then, it turns out last week it gets announced she has cancer. So let's all do what we can to help get a fighter some cancer treatment. Anyway, like I said, please hit that like button. And if you like, go ahead and subscribe to WMMA Now, the best, most complete women's mixed martial arts dedicated platform on YouTube. A lot of new subscribers lately. Welcome to the channel. We'll see you next time.